All right, let's kick off another deep dive. Today, we're heading into the world of RC, and specifically, there's this truck that's been blowing up online, the RGT Pathfinder EX86150.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this one.
Yeah, and what's got everyone talking is its looks like it's kind of this crazy mashup of a Ford Bronco and a Jeep Gladiator, but with, some serious off-road capabilities.
It's definitely got that aggressive look.
It does. It does. And, for this deep dive, we've got two great sources. We've got some in-depth reviews from RC-TNT and RC, two pretty big RC YouTubers.
Yeah, they both really know their stuff.
Exactly. And right away, both of them, they zero in on the Pathfinder's design. That expedition rack, those beefy tires, it's a head turner on the trails.
Yeah, that mix of Bronco and Gladiator, definitely a unique style.
I was honestly blown away by the level of detail. It's not just some empty shell. They went all out with a full interior, dashboard, seats, even working headlights, taillights, indicators, the whole shebang.
Yeah, you don't always see that in a ready-to-run model. That's pretty impressive.
Especially at this price point, too. And get this. It even comes standard with a 4,000 milliAh 3S LiPo battery.
Oh, wow. That's a nice touch. Usually you get stuck with a pretty basic battery in those RTR kits.
Right. Shows they're thinking about performance from the get-go. But here's where it gets interesting. Our RC-TNT, he actually found the Pathfinder a bit too much on 3S, too powerful, especially for that technical crawling.
Yeah, I could see that, especially if you're trying to navigate obstacles.
He actually ended up switching to a 2S battery for his 6-problem course.
Makes you think, right? What kind of terrain are you planning to tackle? Because that battery choice, it really makes a difference.
It's a great point for anyone listening, too, because it's not just about runtime. It's about torque and how the truck handles, like you said.
Yeah.
3S gives you that speed, that power, but 2S, maybe that's the way to go for controlled crawling.
Exactly. Finding that balance is key.
So both reviewers, they really put this Pathfinder through its paces on all sorts of terrain, and they both loved its stability on inclines and declines, probably thanks to that long wheelbase and all those suspension links.
Yeah, those long wheelbases, they tend to give a smoother ride, less chance of rollovers.
Makes sense. But there's a trade-off, right?
Always. That long wheelbase, he can make those tight turns a bit tricky.
Yep, that's what they found. And do RC, he mentioned the departure angle could be better, which held it back on those really steep obstacles.
Ah, yeah, departure angle, that's a big one for those hardcore RC folks.
For those of us who, might not be experts, could you break that down a bit?
Sure, so departure angle, it's basically the angle between the ground and a line you draw from the rear tire to the lowest point at the back of the vehicle. The steeper that angle, the less likely you are to get hung up on something.
Ah, I see. So if you're planning on some serious rock crawling, that might be something to think about upgrading down the line.
Definitely something to consider. Now let's dig a little deeper, under the hood, so to speak. The Pathfinder has a really solid chassis, 3-link front and 4-link rear suspension, and it's even got a panhard bar.
Okay, now you're getting a little too technical for me. Break that down a bit for those of us who are just getting into this RC crawling world.
You got it. So those suspension links, think of them like arms that connect the wheels to the chassis. 3-link at the front, 4-link at the back. More links usually means better articulation.
Articulation meaning?
Meaning the wheels can move more independently, so even on rough surfaces, the truck keeps contact with the ground.
Okay, more articulation, more control, more stability on those tricky obstacles.
Exactly. And that panhard bar I mentioned, it's a lateral link, basically keeps the axle from moving side to side like a stabilizer. So when you're tackling uneven terrain, everything stays in check.
Wow, it's amazing how much engineering goes into these things. It's not just about looking cool, it's about real off-road performance.
Absolutely. And the electronics, they played a huge role too. The Pathfinder's got a powerful 30-kilogram waterproof steering servo, a Hobbywing WP880 ESC, and a 550 20-turn motor.
That sounds pretty beefy. But RC-TNT, he mentioned the fan on the ESC was kind of loud. Is that something to worry about?
Well, first things first, for anyone who's new to this, ESC stands for Electronic Speed Controller. Basically manages the power from the battery to the motor. And that fan, it keeps things cool, especially when the motor's working hard.
Like a mini radiator for the truck's brain.
Exactly. The noise, it's more of a personal preference thing. Some folks find it distracting, especially when you're trying to enjoy that quiet crawl.
So if you're after a more peaceful crawling experience, that's something to keep in mind.
Definitely. Now, the transmitter that really caught my eye, it's a 10-channel transmitter, pretty advanced for an RTR.
10 channels, what does that even mean?
It means you have a ton of control over the truck. You've got dedicated controls for the 2-speed transmission, the diff locks, even the lights.
Hold on, back up a sec. Diff locks, what are those?
Basically, they let you lock the axles together so they rotate at the same speed. Super helpful when you're crawling over obstacles. Keeps one wheel from spinning out while the other's stuck.
Ah, so it's like having four-wheel drive on demand.
Exactly. Gives you that extra traction when you need it most.
That's awesome. You know, one thing I found really cool was the clipless body design with that magnetic light connector. Seems like a small detail, but it shows how much thought RGT put into the user experience.
You're right. It's those little things that make a difference. No more messing with tiny plugs for the lights every time you take the body off. Just snap it on. Magnets do the work. Easy access to the internals.
And that easy access, it's key for making adjustments or upgrades, right?
Absolutely. Makes maintenance a breeze. So we've covered a lot of ground here. First impressions, features. But the real test for any RC crawler, it's how it performs out there on the trails.
You're right. Let's get into that in part 2 of our deep dive.
You know, watching those reviews, it really struck me. This Pathfinder, it's kind of like a bridge between, those beginner-friendly RC crawlers and the ones for the more serious enthusiasts.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, on the one hand, it's ready to run, comes with the battery, so it's super easy to get started.
Exactly. Right out of the box, charge it up, and you're good to go.
But then it's also got those features that, experienced crawlers would be looking for, like that 2-speed transmission, those locking differentials, the whole suspension setup.
It's like you can enjoy it as is, but there's also so much potential for upgrades and customization.
Yeah, like a blank canvas for RC enthusiasts.
Right. And speaking of upgrades, both RC-TNT and DU-RC, they both pointed out a few things that could be, tweaked, improved.
Well, the first thing that jumps out to me is tire and foam upgrades. DU-RC, he said the stock tires, they were decent, but they just didn't have enough grip on certain surfaces, like rocks.
Yeah, I think for casual crawling, those stock tires are probably fine, but if you're going to be tackling some serious terrain, you'll want to upgrade to something with a stickier compound for sure.
No, I gotta admit, compound, that's a new one for me. What makes a compound sticky, and why is that so important?
Okay, so the compound, it's basically the rubber mixture they use in the tire. Stickier compound means it's softer, so it can kind of mold the surface better, give you more grip. Think of it like those racing slick tires. They're super soft, super sticky for maximum grip on smooth surfaces.
Oh, okay, so for RC crawling, we want a tire that can really dig into those rocks, those uneven surfaces.
Exactly. And the foams are just as important. Those sit inside the tire, give it support and structure. Stiffer foams, they hold their shape better under pressure, so the tire doesn't deform and lose traction.
So it's kind of like having a good pair of hiking boots with those sturdy insoles, keeping your feet supported, helping you grip on those trails.
Perfect analogy. And just like hiking boots, there are all sorts of different foams, depending on the terrain, your crawling style, all that.
So sticky tires, stiff foams, got it. What else did they suggest for upgrades?
DU-RC, he pointed out that the steering servo, it's powerful enough, but it felt a bit sluggish, in certain situations.
Yeah, he said it kind of impacted his performance on those really technical obstacles. So a faster servo, that's something to consider. But what should we be looking for?
Like we talked about before, it's all about speed and torque. You want a servo that's fast enough to react quickly, but also strong enough to hold those wheels steady, especially on inclines.
Any recommendations, brands, models?
There's some great brands out there like Civex, Reeves RC, Holmes Hobbies. They all have a bunch of different servos, so just do your research, read reviews, compare specs, find what fits your needs and your budget.
Okay, so we've got tires, foams, servo upgrade. Anything else?
RC-TNT. He mentioned adding weight to the Pathfinder, down low on the chassis or the axles.
Now that sounds counterintuitive. Wouldn't that make it harder to maneuver?
You'd think so, right.
Yeah.
But adding weight in the right spots, it can actually help with stability.
Yeah.
Lowers the center of gravity, so it's less likely to tip over, especially on those steep climbs or side hills.
Ah, so it's like ballast on a ship, keeps it steady in rough seas.
Exactly. You can use lead weights, brass weights, even just some rocks or bolts strategically placed. Simple mod, but it can make a big difference in handling.
Okay, so tires, foams, servo, weight. We've covered the main upgrade areas. But there's that elephant in the room, that rumored brushless conversion kit.
The holy grail of Pathfinder upgrades. Still shrouded in mystery, but the internet's going wild with speculation.
Yeah, we talked about the benefits of brushless motors, more power, more efficiency, less maintenance. But I'm curious, what kind of impact do you think that would have on the Pathfinder specifically?
Imagine more torque for conquering those tough climbs, higher top speed for open stretches, smoother, more precise control. It could really take the Pathfinder to a whole other level.
It almost sounds too good to be true. Any idea when this mythical brushless kit might actually appear?
That's the big question. RGT's been keeping it under wraps, but the rumors say it's in development. Some even think it might launch with a new version of the Pathfinder.
That would be interesting. So if someone's thinking about getting a Pathfinder, should they wait and see or just jump in now?
Tough one. I mean, the Pathfinder, it's a great truck as is, and the upgrades we talked about, they can really make it shine. But if you're the kind of person who always wants the latest and greatest, maybe waiting's the way to go.
It's like that classic tech dilemma, buy now or wait for the next big thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But whether you go brushless or stick with the brushed system, one thing's for sure, this RGT Pathfinder, it's shaking things up in the RC crawler world.
Yeah, it's a truck that really offers something for everyone, from beginners to the hardcore enthusiasts. And that unique style, the performance, the upgrade potential, it's going to keep turning heads on the trails.
Definitely. It's been a great deep dive into the RGT Pathfinder, exploring its features, its capabilities, all the exciting possibilities for customization.
And for everyone listening, we hope this has given you the knowledge and the inspiration to, maybe start your own RC crawling adventure. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, remember, the most important thing is to have fun out there.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring this RGT Pathfinder EX86150. A truck that's been making waves in the RC world.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one.
It is. It is. And now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. We're talking customization. We're talking upgrades.
Let's get those wrenches out.
Exactly. We've teased a few potential upgrades, but let's dive into the specifics. How can we turn this Pathfinder into a real trail beast?
Absolutely.
So let's start with something both reviewers agreed on, tires and foams. Where should someone even begin with that?
It can be a bit overwhelming, right? So many options out there. First thing, think about where you're going to be driving most. Rocky trails, mud, sand.
Yeah, different terrain, different needs. Exactly. For those rocky trails, you'll want tires with, a more aggressive tread pattern, a stickier compound. That's for maximum grip. And softer foams, those help the tires conform to the uneven surfaces.
We talked about compound earlier, but what about tread pattern? What would an aggressive tread pattern even look like?
Think deeper grooves, bigger lugs, sharper edges, all designed to really bite into those rocks and crevices. You got brands like Proline, Pitbull, J-Concepts. They all offer a ton of options.
So there's a whole art to picking the right RC tire.
There is. And don't forget those foams. If you're upgrading tires, usually a good idea to upgrade foams too. Stiffer foams, they give you more support, prevent the tire from deforming under pressure, keeps that traction.
Okay, tires, foams, check. What's next on the list?
Well, remember, DURC mentioned that steering servo. Powerful, but a bit sluggish.
Yeah, he felt like it was holding him back on some of those trickier moves.
Right, so a faster servo is definitely something to consider. Speed and torque, those are the key factors here.
Yeah, right, we talked about that. So fast enough to react quickly, but also strong enough to hold the wheels steady.
Exactly. There's some great servo brands out there. Savex, Reefs RC, Holmes Hobbies. Again, do your research. Find what fits your needs, your budget.
Got it. Tires, foams, servo. Anything else we should be thinking about?
Well, RC-TNT. He briefly mentioned adding weight. Down low on the chassis, maybe the axles.
Wait, add weight. Wouldn't that make it harder to move around?
It might seem counterintuitive, but trust me, adding weight in the right spots, it actually improves stability.
Really?
Yeah, lowers the center of gravity, less chance of tipping over, especially on inclines or side hills.
Oh, like ballast on a ship, I get it.
Exactly. You can use lead weights, brass weights, even some rocks or bolts. Simple mod can make a big difference.
Okay, so tires, foams, servo, weight. We've got the basics covered. But there's one big question mark hanging over all of this, that rumored brushless conversion kit.
Ah yes, the stuff of legends.
The holy grail of Pathfinder upgrades. We talked about the advantages of brushless, more power, efficiency, all that. But how do you think it would change the Pathfinder specifically?
More torque for those tough climbs, higher top speeds, smoother control. Just imagine it. It could transform the Pathfinder.
Sounds amazing, but any clue when this mythical upgrade might actually appear?
Your guess is as good as mine. RGT's been pretty quiet about it. Rumors say it's coming, maybe even with a new version of the Pathfinder.
Interesting. So if someone's thinking about getting a Pathfinder, wait or buy now?
It's a tough one. The Pathfinder, it's great as is, and the upgrades we talked about, they really make a difference. But if you're all about having the latest tech, maybe hold off a bit.
It's like that age-old dilemma, buy now or wait for the next big thing.
Exactly. But hey, Whether you go brushless or not, the RGT Pathfinder, it's really shaken things up in the RC world.
Yeah, it's a truck that offers something for everyone, beginners, experienced crawlers, everybody. And that style, the performance, the upgrade potential, it's a real head turner.
Definitely a standout truck.
So we've explored its features, its capabilities, all the exciting possibilities for customization. And for everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the inspiration to maybe start your own RC crawling adventures. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. The most important thing is to just get out there and have fun.
Couldn't agree more. That's what it's all about.